But I didn't have enough ready cash. How could I arrange to pay for this? Maybe on the installment plan, huh? % a year, so much down, so much a month. Well, the salesman started figuring. $370 worth of furniture. I could pay $100 down. Balance of $270 at 6%. Oh, 26. 1620 charges, or total of $286.20 paid over 9 months makes $31.80 a month. So it would cost $31.80 a month for 9 months. How much for 6 months? And for 12? I only figured $47.70 for 6 months, wanted to pay every month, and $23.80. Then the salesman handed me a conditional sales agreement. This I'd have to sign to buy on installments. What did all that fine print say? Title shall not pass to buyer with delivery of said personal property, but shall remain vested in seller until entire purchase price is paid. I wouldn't own the furniture until it was all paid for. Upon default by buyer in the payment of any installment of the price, seller may, without notice, take possession of said personal property, retaining all payments made thus far as recompense for handling costs. I had heard jokes about repossessed furniture, but this was serious. If I missed one payment, I was liable to lose the furniture and all the money I had paid up to then. I wasn't so sure that this was easy credit I had heard about. I was mighty discouraged. Next day, I was still worried about the risk of repossession. But I found that there are other things to consider in installment buying. I was waiting for one of my patients, Mrs. Gerard, who was 20 minutes late.
I'm sorry I'm late, Dr. Harris.
Oh, that's all right, Mrs. Gerard.
I haven't any watch. You see, last week when I lost my old one, I went down to the jeweler's and picked out a new one. It was a beautiful watch, but it was expensive. So expensive that I couldn't pay cash for it. So they worked out an installment plan. But when I saw how much extra it was going to cost me, I asked myself, is it worth buying on installments? Is having a watch now so important that I should pay more for it than if I buy it for cash? So I decided to save every week until I could buy it for cash. Having the watch now isn't worth paying all the extra charges. So you see, Dr. Harris, why I'm late.
Now, there's a question for me. Is having the furniture now worth paying extra for installments, $16 extra? I could save that by buying it later for cash, but is it safe trying to keep using this old furniture? So I decided to look further into this matter of installment buying. About a week later, I got another slant on things.
As I was saying, Doc, you'll have to drop out to our new house. It's kind of small, not as big as the first one that Mrs. Crane and I picked out. We talked with the realtors, looked at the houses, and picked out a beautiful home. One that was just right for the family. With a low down payment, it seemed easy to buy. But when we considered the monthly payments and tried to fit them in with our regular expenses, we asked ourselves, can we afford it? We decided that buying the larger home would strain our budget for a long time. By buying a slightly smaller house, one that would suit us almost as well, we're sure we can afford to meet the payments every month and not lose our house, even when we have to pay your bill. Hey, Doc? Well, so long. So long, Crane.
So there's another question I should ask myself. Can I afford it? Will I be able to fit the payments into my budget and meet them every month without fail? I thought of that again when I called on Bill Hall at his home.
Well, Doc, if I'm going to be laid up, it's a good thing I have this new radio to listen to. But say, did I have a time getting it? You know, I had to go to nearly half a dozen stores before I finally got good terms.
Good terms? Why? Is there really so much difference?
Difference? Sure. There are lots of ways they can figure. Most stores I went to quoted me 6%. But a 6% carrying charge is far different than a true interest rate of 6%. The way it figured out, most were charging a true rate of about 12%, and one tried to charge me almost 24%. You've got to watch the way they figure. Check the time element in the contract if you want to be sure you're going to get the best installment terms. That's why I shop around.
So there's a third question. Am I getting the best installment terms? I decided to shop around, too, and see how much various places did charge. During the next week, I took time to investigate different sources of credit. I checked a small loan company and a bank to see if they would lend me enough to pay cash for the furniture, perhaps at a better true rate of interest. I went around to different stores and found furniture prices and quality much the same, but when I checked finance costs and payments, I found many differences. When I had all the facts and figures put together, I went back to my office to see how many dollars it would cost me to finance the same amount of money for the same length of time. I figured in all the extra charges of some places, credit investigation fees, insurance charges, and the cost of prepayment, paying up early. And here's how it looked. That first store's installment charges were $16.20, remember? Another store would charge me $18.40. A third place read some figures off a chart that added up to $21.35. Places that required an endorser for my note, I decided not to consider. A fifth store's charges were $12.15. Yes, any way I looked at it, installment buying cost money. So I asked myself again, is it worth buying on installments? Do I need it badly enough now to pay the extra cost of installments? Or like Florence Gerard, should I save and buy it later for cash? All right, question number 2. Can I afford it? Am I sure of being able to make the payments as they fall due? Or, like the Cranes, should I be satisfied with something less expensive? And finally, question 3. Am I getting the best installment terms? Have I checked enough credit sources so that, like Bill Hall, I know what I'm paying in relation to what can be worked out? So I made up my mind, and my answer to all 3 questions was yes. As you'll see, I've been in my office lately. Well, now people do have a nice place to wait. I'm glad I bought it. If you had my problem,